The last few tournaments haven't exactly been great for Spain, so here is how I think they're going to line up this summer in the European Championships as they attempt to get their crown back from Portugal. Relatively new on the scene, but very impressive, is Unai Simon. Now, it does mean that with him starting in goal, I'm not sure David De Gea will get a chance to play. In fact, it looks like he's not even trusted at Manchester United either. In all honesty, De Gea's biggest talking point of the summer may actually be a transfer away from Old Trafford, and not really whether or not he'll get some game time at the Euros. Aside from these two options though, of which I think Simon will start, there's Kepa, but Spain have already got a manager in Luis Enrique, so you can rule him out. And as for Robert Sanchez from Brighton, he is a reliable, if not unremarkable, third choice. Moving on to right back, and I'm not quite sure how Spain are going to play this one, because in the last few international matches, not only has it changed hands, the right back shirt, but also there's been a few midfielders in there as well. Carvajal is injured, so he's out of contention. They've been using the likes of Sergio Roberto and Marcos Llorente because of their midfield engines and their experience at the top of Spanish football. There's also Pedro Porro, has had a good season for Sporting. On top of this is Jesus Navas, although maybe one too many golden oldies in the defence if he is to be included. And they've got Hector Bellerin, who really isn't in much form or fitness for Arsenal. So honestly, for this spot, I'm picking Marcos Llorente. Now, it's for two reasons mainly. First off, he has had such a fantastic season for Atletico Madrid, it'd be an absolute crime not to have him involved in this Spain starting 11. And secondly, by putting him at right back, it takes one more player out of contention for an already packed midfield selection, which is definitely going to cause Luis Enrique a bit of a headache when it comes to deciding who's playing. So there you go, Marcos Llorente filling in at the right back spot. Kind of makes sense for me. Moving into central defence, and yes, he may have been injured, and yes, talks about his contract may have affected his game on the pitch ever so slightly, but you're not going to take Sergio Ramos to the Euros or start the Spanish captain. He's showing no signs of slowing down, and with 115 caps to his name, really has such a wealth of experience. In fact, he's one of the very few players in this squad that was still around when they won the World Cup and the last time they won the Euros as well. I can not only guarantee that you're going to see him start, but you'll probably be seeing some outrageous penalties from him as well. When it comes to backups though, there's Diego Llorente and Inigo Martinez, who have both got some good experience and provide reliable backups, and there's also Eric Garcia. Now this is an interesting one. At the moment he's at Manchester City, but with his admission to leave and join Barcelona, which would put him in good stead for the national team, it has meant that he has found game minutes very difficult to come by. In fact, in the year 2021, he has a grand total of 15 Premier League minutes, and that was back in January, so he may have forgotten how to kick a football. Alongside Sergio Ramos is not Piqué. See, that's how weird it is to say. When you don't have them playing alongside each other, it is odd because they have made up the Spain defence for so many years. But this team does not contain a Gerrard of the Piqué variety. No, this contains the future of the Spanish defence, and that is Pau Torres. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because he's been linked with the move to Manchester United. And when a player is linked with the move to Manchester United, it's all over every football site ever. So that's why you probably know his name. The 6'3" defender has a contract until 2024 with Villarreal, but you can probably see that he may not be at the club by then, certainly if recent transfer rumours are to be believed. One place he will be though is in the heart of the Spanish defence, and if no team manages to sign him up in the very short few weeks before the Euro starts, you can guarantee that if he has a really strong tournament, he'll be back in the spotlight again as if he wasn't already. But on top of this though, and this is a very late entry into the squad, so much so that I can't really decide whether or not he'd start or be a backup. On one hand, Aymeric Laporte is fantastic and deserves with his quality to be a starting player. On the other hand, he's only just switched his allegiance from France to Spain for the Euros, so it's not exactly likely that he'll walk straight into the starting 11. He's got to get used to the new squad, embed in with his fellow professionals, and really sort of get used to the system and how they play. Of course, he has played in La Liga for many years, but I think there would be a few disgruntled voices within the Spain camp if a defender were to walk in and suddenly take their starting spot. I mean, the other starting spot alongside Sergio Ramos. That's not going to be happening on his watch. Next up into the left back spot, and reliable for Barcelona, reliable for the Spanish team, and pretty much the only other option aside from Jose Gaya, it's Jordi Alba. Now, he's had a very good season for Barcelona, despite the fact that it hasn't been the easiest for them either, and it's testament to his ability that 9 years on from having scored in the final against Italy on Euro 2012, he is still in contention and pretty much certain to be the starting left back. As for Gaya, well, his form has been a little bit indifferent this season, but so has Valencia's as well, so it's not really a surprise to see him play number one backup. There is of course Tottenham's Sergio Reguilon, but he has an outside chance of making the first team. Probably going to have to stick with being a squad member. But talking of that 2012 final, there is one more player alongside Alba and Ramos who I'm going to put in this team that started that game, and it is a very, very tough choice in midfield. It's Sergio Busquets. Now, there's a bit of an argument to be made about Sergio Busquets, and the same really goes for Barcelona. On one hand, he is a top professional with all the experience in the world and still has plenty to offer on the ball, and on top of this, he fits very well into Luis Enrique's Spanish team. On the other hand, and again, this kind of goes for Barcelona too, if he steps aside, it could allow for a more dynamic, younger, energetic midfielder to be put in place of Spain. They can change the game, maybe go slightly more attacking, and bring in different systems with someone a little bit more versatile. The thing that for me keeps him in this team is the fact that he doesn't really have much competition when it comes to that deep line controlling midfield, certainly not off the back of the last campaign. Busquets has had a good season. Rodri's been good for Manchester City, but I'm not sure he offers anything too different to what Busquets does, and Busquets does it better. And there's also Thiago, whose form with Liverpool has been, well, it's just not really been his Bayern Munich form, so I'd be shocked if he got the nod ahead of the other two, certainly in that deep line, play dictating, tempo changing role. Further ahead into the midfield, and this is where some serious talent comes to the fore. Basically, I split it into two sections. One midfielder is the proven world-class talent within the squad, and the others are those who don't necessarily have so much experience at international level. Now, there are three main players vying for this first spot. Fabian Ruiz is a very, very good player. So is Saul. They're just not as good as Koke. I mean, all three are brilliant players, no doubt, but only one of them was named by Xavi as his own successor in the Spanish team, and it is the Atletico Madrid captain. At 29 years old, he is really heading into the peak of his powers and can do so much for this Spanish team. Despite the fact he was actually notably missing from the Spain squad for the 2 years following that terrible World Cup performance in 2018, he has since come back to the fold, captained his country and chipped in with some goals and assists as they sit atop of their Nations League group, and they're well on their way to qualifying for the World Cup in Qatar. He's a mainstay of the Atletico Madrid midfield, an enforcer, and everything good about what they do on the pitch. And unfortunately, he kind of overshadows Saul at club and international level as well. As for the others, well, Fabian Ruiz hasn't exactly had the greatest time of it because Napoli haven't been so good in recent Serie A seasons. And when it comes to Sergio Canales, again, another good midfielder, but will probably have to settle for a place in the squad and not really pushing for a start in the first team. On the other side, there is a young, precocious talent who could go on to become the next Andres Iniesta. But again, no pressure on the kid. Yes, of course, it's Pedri. Now, while Sociedad's Mikel Merino and Oscar from Sevilla are both good players in their early 20s who would definitely have a shot, it's just a shame that there's a player who's probably better than them, has more potential, is quite a few years younger, and is playing at Barcelona of all places. I'm not going to sit here and say that you have to play at a biggest club to get into your national team, because there are plenty of examples proving the opposite. But let's not lie, playing in the biggest team with some of the best players and the ones that get all the media attention and the ones where all the managers go to watch these games, they're absolutely everywhere, you can't avoid them, it does help the cause a little bit. Put it this way, Pedri is a fantastic player. Would he be as noticeable if he was playing for someone further down the Liga? It would be a little bit more difficult for him, not necessarily to stand out because he'd be head and shoulders above the rest, but it'd be more difficult for him to get the spotlight and be involved in all of the games that the top teams win throughout the course of a season. His agility, nimble footwork and dribbling on the ball, combined with his vision and ease at which he takes on opponents, make him a real asset for this Spain side, both in the deeper areas where they control the tempo and as the attack is approaching the box in tighter areas. I would suggest he is the one player in this team where his selection is slightly more opponent dependent, let's say. When it comes against a stronger team where Spain aren't necessarily favourites, he may be sacrificed and bulk up the midfield, bringing a bit more experience or some added defensive cover. But when they're against another team where they're expected to be dominant and maybe have to break down a low block from a more defensive side, he could be that special key that opens the door. Moving into the right wing position in this 4-3-3 formation, and being at Manchester City for Ferran Torres is a bit of a gift and a bit of a curse. The curse being that that squad is so jam-packed with so much talent that, well, he finds it difficult to get minutes on the pitch. For example, this season he's had 32 appearances in all competitions. That's Manchester City playing close to 60 games and has only started 21 of them. The good news is he's played in all three attacking positions almost equally throughout his time on the pitch this season for Manchester City, and that can only help when it comes to setting up this fluid Spanish attack, especially if they go full Spain and don't play with the traditional traditional number 9. It doesn't matter where he actually starts in the tactical lineup before the game, he'll find himself on the left, on the right and through the centre throughout various points in the match. On top of this, Pep Guardiola's stature and effect on Spanish football from when he started as a manager cannot be ignored. They will 100% trust him to have developed Ferran Torres into the kind of player that could be an asset to the Spain squad. Luis Enrique was a B team manager when Pep Guardiola was doing those incredible things with the Barcelona first team, so I'm sure he knows and trusts that a player under his tutelage is going to be a great option to have. Alongside this, there's also Dani Olmo, who Luis Enrique actually knows from those Barcelona youth days, and Marco Asensio, who's had a rather hot and cold season with Real Madrid. Both of them, if they were to start, you could say they've got definite quality, and it wouldn't be such a surprise, but I'm not so sure they'll start ahead of Ferran Torres, maybe not in that right wing position anyway. Moving on to the left wing, and it's a man that I'm actually still impressed is at Real Sociedad, only because there's been so much talk about a big money transfer in the last few seasons. With the 2020 Copa del Rey under their belt and proving they are the best of the rest in La Liga, Mikel Oyarzabal from Real Sociedad is proving himself to be a fantastic player. He's one of their star men. He's playing every minute in key games. He's providing goals and assists and just a brilliant attacking outlet. Why would he want to move to a team where he potentially could be sat on the bench or fighting for a place in the squad? Certainly at the young age that he's at. He can just enjoy playing football, and a team that is hoping to become bigger and better, they won't want to sell him for cheap either. He deserves his place in the squad, and someone else in with the shout is Rodrigo Moreno, because he's had a good season, but he's had a good season only for Leeds. What I mean by this is that when it comes to his demands under Marcelo Bielsa, it's all fine to do them, including the work rate, the fluidity of tactics and movement, both in and out of possession. But if those skills aren't transferable into the Spanish setup, I'm not sure why it would make sense to have him as a starter. His 3 Premier League goals all season, combined with the fact that Spain have plenty of goal scorers in the number 9 position, rule him out playing through the middle. And in the other case, there's also Ansu Fati, but unfortunately, surgery for him means he will miss the tournament this summer. Having said that, he's incredibly young and incredibly talented, so I hardly think this is going to be his only opportunity to represent Spain at a major international tournament. Moving in then to the central striking role and the goal getter, and Spain have had 2 very good ones this season. Now, whilst Alvaro Morata has had a brilliant season with Juventus, Gerard Moreno at Villarreal is coming into some ridiculous form. In fact, since the turn of the year, only Messi and Lewandowski have been involved in more goals than he has, goals and assists. He's up there with the likes of, obviously, those 2 names, but Haaland as well, Griezmann and Kylian Mbappe. Not necessarily a name that you'd put in with the rest of those big stars at the start of the season, but full credit to Moreno, who's also helped Villarreal to reach the Europa League final. With Spain missing out on a really clinical goal scorer pretty much since record holder David Villa left the squad, it's probably a good time to take advantage of Moreno's hot streak of form and hope that he can bang in the goals this summer. So there you have it, my Spanish 11. You guys let me know your thoughts down below as to who you'd have starting. Check out everything else we've got going on, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.